Hey, everybody. I'm Erika Sanzi, and I'm the Director of Outreach here at Parents Defending Education. As some of you may have heard, Parents Defending Education has actually changed our name to Defending Education. And one of the main reasons that we decided to make this change is that we have expanded into higher education. Prior to now, we were only looking at and dealing with K-12, but we decided the problems on university and college campuses were such that we needed to be part of that as well. And so our goal is to expose and tackle discrimination and indoctrination and the suppression of free speech on college and university campuses, as well as continuing our work into the K-12. So what does this expansion mean? What are we going to be doing in higher education? And what can parents continue to expect from us? These are all great questions, and I have brought in my team to help answer all of them. Sarah Parshall Perry is Defending Education's Vice President. Rhyen Staley is also joining us. He is our researcher. And last but certainly not least is Marissa Fallon, who is our Director of Advocacy. So thank you, everybody, for joining me.
Hi, Erika.
Thanks for having us, Erika.
It's like a Defending Ed party. And by the way, our name is Defending Education, but we also go by Defending Ed. Okay, so we have been focused on K-12 schools for 4 years, almost exactly 4 years, actually. We launched at the end of March in 2021. And I'm sure that some parents out there might be wondering, why are you expanding to higher education when there are so many problems still in K-12? As if, the work seems unfinished in K-12. So why are you trying to broaden your footprint? And maybe you're wondering, aren't there already enough organizations working in higher education? So what we would say to that is that parents are kind of growing up and we're growing up with them. Speaking even just personally about myself and Marissa and others on the team, like when we started out, we didn't even have kids in college, or maybe had one just starting college, and now we have multiple kids in college. And so in order to keep parents engaged, we also want to be sure that we're providing information that's useful to them, even when they've moved beyond K-12. It does not mean that we're going to do any less work in the K-12 space. On the contrary, we're going to continue doing the same amount of work, probably more, and working tirelessly on that front, but also expanding into higher ed, which is why we have expanded our team. Lastly, I would say that we're going to focus on some issues that some other organizations haven't necessarily tackled, or certainly we hope that we can partner with people who are already working on issues that overlap with us. But we think that our unique research style, thank you very much, Rhyen Staley, can really adapt quickly and that we can affect some real change. Okay, so that's enough from me. I'm going to bring in Sarah first, our new vice president. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's hard to imagine how we existed before without you. We announced our expansion into higher education earlier this month with 4 civil rights complaints against universities. Can you walk us through a couple of those, keeping in mind again that our audience, it's not a group of lawyers, but it's a bunch of regular parents who really just care about education?
Yeah, so we launched 4 federal civil rights complaints with the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. Now, you can think of OCR, the Office for Civil Rights, as the nation's law enforcement agency on civil rights protections in all federally funded education programs. And remember that these civil rights apply to any institution that receives so much as $1 of federal funding. A lot of people don't understand that, but the majority of colleges and universities in the United States receive federal funding, whether that's through a Pell Grant for a student or a student who's financed through federal loans to get to college. There are a whole bunch of utilizations that these colleges have for federal funding that's coming in through the kids at their schools. But because they take federal funding, that means they have to follow federal civil rights law. It kind of works like a contract between the federal government and the institution. If we give you this money, then you have to follow federal civil rights laws. One of those federal civil rights laws is Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that prohibits race, ethnicity, or national origin discrimination in any federally funded education program. Pretty simple, right? Well, the way that we've seen this operate, and you all are no stranger to this, is through diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. We know that DEI offices have proliferated at colleges across the country. Surprise, surprise, under the past administration. And what we've seen now is the fallout of a lot of race-based programs, including scholarships directly related to individuals based on their particular race. Well, that's a violation of federal civil rights law. So concurrent with our rebranding, we launched 4 federal civil rights complaints. One against the University of Southern Illinois at Carbondale, one against Indiana University, which was running 4 race discriminatory scholarship programs, one against the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and one against the University of California, Berkeley, for their notorious environmentalist of color scholarship. If you look online and you do your own research, you'll see that UC Berkeley has rebranded its environmentalist of color scholarship to the student of joy or the belief of joy, something along those lines. It's got joy in the title. But you know, as people who've been in this space for a long time, and you guys probably know as well, that names don't always indicate exactly what's going on. And it's going to take a while for UC Berkeley to retool this scholarship. But we were really thrilled, at least immediately, to see that there is a response from one of the 4 universities where they're willing to sit up and take notice and recognize that, guess what? Ending race discrimination, like the Supreme Court has said, means eliminating all race discrimination, not just some of it.
Okay, so again, to boil this down even more simply, you are saying that these were programs that explicitly stated that only students of a certain skin color or not of a certain skin color were able to get this money or take advantage of these programs.
That's exactly what I'm saying. 100%. Preference will be given to students of this skin color, and that is very clearly illegal.
One of the things I have learned working here over the past 4 years is that a lot of people, including people who run schools, and even in some cases, people who work as lawyers for school districts, don't seem to understand or know that the 1964 Civil Rights Act applies to everyone.
Right.
They seem to have that when they hear civil rights, they assume it only applies to certain groups. That seems to be how a lot of schools and universities have gotten themselves into trouble. And it seems like there's a very steep learning curve now as they try to pull themselves out. Sarah, anything else you want to mention about these complaints that you haven't already said?
Well, what happens next is that the Department of Education has 180 days to determine whether or not there's enough evidence based on what we've submitted. We really did our homework on these, as PDE, DE now is known for doing. We're great researchers, if we do say so ourselves. It'll have 180 days to determine whether or not it's going to open up the books and launch an investigation into these schools. But what we hope is that all of the race discrimination that's sort of hidden in the shadows, that's all been sort of either rebranded or renamed or moved around, is really going to be addressed for exactly what it is. And Erika, you made a great point. You know, civil rights law, anti-discrimination law is designed to protect everyone, because that is the nature of civil rights law. It is colorblind, it is sex neutral, it applies to everyone, no matter who you are. And what it really does is it gives us the promises of the Constitution's equal protection clause, that all are equal under the law. And that's what we want for all American school kids.
Thank you, Sarah. And just a reminder to people that are watching and or listening, if you know of programs going on in your school districts or in the colleges or universities that your students attend, or maybe even where you work, let us know. We are really happy to look into this and to see again, like if there are programs or initiatives or scholarships or awards that are being distributed and given out based on race or ethnicity. Number one, that's not okay and can't happen, and it's illegal. And we can certainly take a look and potentially be helpful from our end. So again, let us know if you know of anything like that. Okay, now we're going to move on to our superstar researcher, Rhyen Staley, the man known for going down rabbit holes and finding a lot of really important information that helps all of us. Rhyen, we also launched our expansion, as you know, into higher ed with some investigations, some reports that you obviously played a huge role in helping us to, again, decide what to report on, and then also providing all the documents and the evidence. So can you tell us about what you found as it relates to DEI funding in higher ed, as well as race-based scholarships?
Hi, Erika. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to piggyback off of what Sarah was talking about with the OCR complaints, because our report plays a role in that. What we did was we looked at starting with scholarships and these race-based focused or identity-based, in some cases, scholarships. And what we identified was a number of universities, in fact, it's in the hundreds across the country, that are offering some form of scholarships that have, and what parents want to look for is they want to look for language, even as far as like it, as Sarah brought up, preferred or preference. A preference is given to this group. Because what it does is it stifles students that are not in that group from even applying. They see that and go, oh, well, that group's preferred, I'm not going to apply. And so we cataloged a large number of universities. Let me give you one example that really caught my eye. Was after 2020, and this is a bit of a story, is a university president speaking at the George Floyd memorial or funeral, whatever it was, got up and he, quote, challenged the university presidents across the country to create a George Floyd Memorial Scholarship for students. And lo and behold, a large number of schools did this. They created both, and I'll get to this in a minute, but they created funds where they could fundraise money for George Floyd scholarships. The irony is that some of these scholarships were given out for leadership and community service, but the common thread through all of them was that they were preference given to minority students. And so that's one of the reports that we cover. So parents, as they listen to Sarah and they want to kind of get a glimpse at some of the language that needs to be that they're using so they can investigate their child's school, that report is for that purpose. The other report is the funds report, which is related to that, but it's a little bit broader. And so these universities, some for quite a while, have had diversity, equity, inclusion funds. Now, they also have funds for scholarships that are DEI based. For example, as I referenced, the George Floyd Memorial Scholarship stuff. And it's a way for them to raise funds specifically for that thing. A lot of departments, law schools, schools of medicine, they all have diversity, equity, inclusion offices, something else I want to come to in a minute. And so they also have within that fundraising for those departments. And so that money is specifically set aside for that. What we've found is it's a little hard to track the dollar amount, but we were able to identify that since about 2020, 2021, $300 million have gone into the schools that we've looked at, which is a couple hundred schools, a couple hundred universities. $300 million has funneled into DEI programming through these funds. For example, University of Michigan, who, by the way, deleted this page, They claim that from 2016 to 2021, they amassed $98 million for their DEI programming. So that's something we highlight in that report. And then the last thing is we create a third report on DEI offices at these universities, but not just the universities themselves, but also within the individual colleges, the College of Education, College of Engineering, etc. And so that report goes into about well over 250 universities. We looked at how many are rebranding. How many have allegedly, because we don't know this for sure, we don't know if they've actually cut their programs or if they've just renamed them. We found that about 16 schools have actually deleted their webpage for DEI. And we've found that about 25 schools have actually rebranded out of the 250 universities that we've covered. And the rest still haven't changed. They are still running their DEI programming in light of the executive orders. And so that report digs into that information and shows what law schools, and by the way, Erika, all three of these reports are going to be continuously updated as we get new information, whether scholarships are no longer offered, whether DEI offices are actually shut down. And so that's what we're working on, and that's what we have out.
Okay, so basically what you're telling us is that schools have very big pots of money that they have been using to break federal law by discriminating against students, applicants, etc., on the basis of race, ethnicity, and national origin. And also on the rebranding front, one thing that people watching also should know is that very often when our organization or any organization writes a story about, a school, a university, an organization, a company, a nonprofit, they begin to scrub their websites. So it's not surprising that once the Trump administration took action or that we've highlighted things in our reports, that suddenly links go dead because they realize that they've been, exposed in a very public way. And then the question becomes, are they eliminating it on principle? That's rare, but can happen. Are they eliminating it because under pressure? Or are they keeping it but renaming it and trying to trick the public? We see this a lot, especially if you see the word belonging. That's like a red flag that some sort of like renaming is going on, but nothing else is really changing. Okay. On to, what's that saying? Last but not least, Marissa Fallon. Okay, so Marissa is like she worked closest with our parents and our parent groups, and always wants to help give parents and now students, because again, college students now are adults, so many of them are going to be the ones looking into all of this. We like to give them action items, not just complain about problems, but also provide them with resources and other things that can help them moving forward in a positive way. So, Marissa.
So I'm really excited to talk to everybody about the resources that we have, because anyone who has been with Parents Defending Education for the last 4 years, now Defending Education, knows that it is really important to us as an organization to help educate our parents, and in this case with higher ed, the parents and the students. We feel that the more information that you have, the more empowered you can be, the smarter of a consumer you can be, and hopefully when you're beginning your college search process with your student, you can be more informed and make a better choice. So for our K through 12 resources, we spent 4 years developing a very robust set of incredible resources for our parents and our families. We're really excited to announce that even in this early stage with Defending Education and our relaunch, we have 10 incredible resources that will speak, I think, to both the parents as consumers and also to our students as they're going through the process of looking for colleges, or they're in college and they want to learn more about it, or they're at the end of college, maybe looking to go on to graduate school, and they want to know how they can find more information about the schools that they're looking into. So wherever they are along their college journey, we have information, we have resources that are available to them. All of these are located on our website, defendinged.org. If you go to the higher education option, you'll see the resources listed. So I'm just going to go through what those 10 resources are. I'll explain a couple in a little bit more depth, but everything is there for you to look at. Please keep in mind that at Defending Ed, we want to be really responsive to our parents and our students. So if in your journey, your higher ed journey, if you think of a resource that would be really great for us to have, or some questions that you have that you would love to have a place to go and have those answered, please reach out to us at defendinged.org, info@defendinged.org, and let us know, and we'll be happy to look into those. So the resources that we currently have, we have colleges and universities, who's in charge of what. That's really an interesting place to start, because unlike K through 12, the governance at the college level, the higher ed level, is completely different. So you'll be learning about board of trustees, presidents, what's a provost, what does the dean do, what does the faculty and staff do, what are their responsibilities within the organization of the university. Then we have how to research a college's real culture. So that's really important when your kids are looking at college. That's going to talk about things like free speech, the faculty, political contributions and ideological balance, DEI, what's the gender ideology of the school, how do they handle anti-Semitism, things like that. Then we have questions to ask when selecting courses, letting students know that they can look at the syllabi, look at material, etc., research professors, and point them to talking to other students to find out what courses they should select. Then we have understanding the core curriculum. We have what is a faculty senate and why is it important to parents and students. Again, a faculty senate is going to be something different than you experienced in K through 12. The next one, which is really popular now, is what is accreditation and why does it matter? You want to make sure that that degree is going to be recognized by employers and by graduate schools. And another one that's been very topical lately is what is an endowment? And why should you care about that? It has tuition impact. It impacts what kind of resources are available at the school, facilities, things like that, and the long-term stability of the school, faculty tenure. Another big issue, why is college so expensive? And finally, questions to ask on your college tour. And I would add to the questions to ask on your college tour, I would expand that, and I would say that the questions that we have listed there are also excellent for when your student's going to a college fair, on their college tour, or if they're meeting with a regional counselor for a specific university. So these questions are going to come in handy in a lot of different instances. And those questions are divided into category. We have academics, campus life, housing and dining, support resources, financial and future considerations, free speech, and of course, Title IX, which we touched on earlier with Sarah. So I know that's a quick list to just run through, but there are a lot of really incredible resources. Certain things are going to appeal to you depending where you are in your higher ed journey. But again, please reach out to Defending Ed if you think of anything that we're lacking, because we're going to continue to add to that list. We look forward to doing so.
Thank you, Marissa.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's basically it in terms of us giving you a simple and succinct explanation as to why we decided to expand into higher ed. I want to reiterate again, this does not change our efforts and our work in K-12. So parents, please do not think that we're abandoning you and suddenly moving into college and universities and forgetting about K-12. We absolutely are not. All we are doing is expanding our team so that we can not only sort of go to college with the parents that we've been working with for 4 years, but also because we know that there are such major problems on campus. And we really want to be part of exposing that, explaining it to people in terms that they can understand, and then also being part of the solution. And sometimes the solution is just exposing it. Other times it's going to be things like the OCR complaints or Office of Civil Rights complaints that Sarah mentions. And sometimes it reaches a level that is so egregious that we move into litigation. So again, we will be doing exactly what we've been doing in K-12, as well as in the higher ed space. Please do check out our new work. including the resources that Marissa's talked about. You can read copies of the complaints that we filed with the Office of Civil Rights. And again, we are at DefendingEd.org. That was always our website, so that actually works out really well. And again, you know, be vigilant, but don't be paranoid. Remember that all of these problems that we discuss, they are pervasive. They are not universal. It is not happening everywhere. These things aren't happening even necessarily in your school. But what we would say is that we do see all of these things around race, gender, inappropriate content, suppression of speech, not allowing for the free exchange of ideas, you know, not promoting or even allowing diversity of viewpoint. We do see that in all 50 states. So again, be vigilant, not paranoid. And if there is something concerning happening or disturbing, or you're not sure what you think about it, whether that's in a K-12 school or on a college campus, please reach out to us at defendinged.org or at info@defendinged.org. And we're happy to help you, as we always have been. And also, please do consider sharing this video with a friend and tagging us. And with all of that said, I want to thank Sarah, Rhyen, and Marissa for joining me in talking about this exciting new initiative. And until next time, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.